you would like to help sponsor the program, then we would appreciate your delegation. Today we're starting with a new series. We're about to introduce some awesome artists that gravitate in the Cardano ecosystem. And first one in line is tattoo artist Jon Birch. I hope I got your name right, Jon. Or Jon. Jon, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So, Jon, we bumped into each other on Twitter some time ago, and I don't know who found who, but we got talking, and then you told me that you're both a graphic designer as well as a tattoo artist. So, can you tell us where you're from, and did you always feel like the burning flame of desire to draw inside of you ever since you were little?
Yeah. So I'm from South Wales in the UK, and so basically, when it comes to art, it's something I've sort of been given. I a lot of people ask, do you practice, or was it something that you sort of taught yourself? And the answer is no. It's just something from ever since I've been small. It's other people sort of noticed it, and it sort of grows with you. It's funny enough. My grandfather passed away last year, and we were looking through old things that he kept by and stuff, and it was looking at old school reports, and everything I had in there was always about art, sport, art. Everything all the way through was obviously my focal point growing up, and that just sort of developed. Going through different age grades. I'd always be worried at the end of the year what was my report about my art. And that just developed. Obviously, I got improved, and that's kind of how I sort of based every year off how I wanted to improve, and I want to learn something new. And I was kind of always at the point where it was maybe the one thing that was sort of superior to other peers, in comparison to other subjects.
Mm-hmm.
So that was mine. So and then if I had a new challenge, it'd be like trying to make myself better again. And we sort of done that all the way through, and I won some competitions along the way from as young as, I think I was about 8 years old. I think I won like a little poster competition, and that was my first sort of thinking, I am a bit good at this,
Right. And I understand that your father was also a designer or a tattoo artist? Or?
Yeah, so it goes far back as on both sides really, because my mother is a good artist, but my dad is obviously a tattooist as well, and he was a really good artist. And he'd actually won national awards when he was about, I think he was 9 or 10 years old, and he was put in the National Gallery. And then he did wood carving as well and tattooing. But his father and his grandfather both did wood carvings as well. So they used to carve like walking sticks, and my dad did love spoons, which he used to send around the world. So I've seen all this growing up, and obviously every time we had a school project, you can imagine it was like everyone was involved, and we create all these good things, So it's been further back than just me,
Mm-hmm. And then tell us something about the awards that you won when you were little. They were actually quite important awards, no? I believe.
Yeah. So the first one was just like a little. It was I remember it was for a cross country, and it was for the local district, and I went too fast on doing the running part, so I just did the poster and I won that. And then I think I won one for the Rugby World Cup. So there was for the Rugby World Cup when it came to Wales in Cardiff in what year was it? I think it was 1999.
Mm-hmm.
And I won. It was another poster, so I designed the poster for the World Cup, and that got used, and I got given like a gold coin and stuff. So that was, and then I had another opportunity then later on when I was in university.
Mm-hmm. And then, so already when you were in your university, you were already sort of supporting yourself with your art and designing, graphic design and stuff. But then something happened, right, when you were in university that sort of changed the course of your life. Can you tell us about it?
Yeah, so I kind of, as I left school, and I was a bit with art, is like everything, is how do you make a career out of it? How do you make money? How do you want to better yourself? So that's when you get to the crossroads with any artist. And I've sort of got to a point where it's like, right, I like nice things. I want to have a nice future. How am I going to make a career? So I got to a point where it's like, right, okay, I dipped my toes into the water of art in all aspects, and I found graphic design. and I knew nothing about it. I couldn't even use Photoshop, and I was like, right, where are we going to go with this? So I decided to I was either going to do video editing, multimedia, or I was going to go to do graphic design. So I ended up going to graphic design, and then I did that for 4 years. And at first I found it hard because obviously it was something that was totally new to me. And then not until probably the last year, I really started to really enjoy it and identify where I could have my input, you know, and it's always been something of probably identifying how a brand wants to look, and you know, the market and what people want to identify them as separate to another company, you know, and sort of give a feel for how they want to represent what they do in their logo, and then branding their logo, reaching that out then into their marketing and, you know, development of that side, you know. And I entered a competition during that period where a national bank, Halifax, and the Bank of Scotland were doing a live competition where they wanted students to have an input on the student credit card, and this was through MasterCard. So obviously it was a big competition at the time. So I was quite a lot at that time. I was probably into, I think it was a bit of a sort of a fashion trend again, where Banksy was you know, it was a big thing. His books were being released, and everyone was sort of, it was at the start of social media as well. So Facebook had just come out. Everyone was trying to jump on that. There was no Instagram back then. So I was into Banksy, and I decided that I wanted to enter this competition, but I wanted to do it around Banksy and around the theme of students and how university people looked and wanted to see, and they wanted to carry a card, because one big thing is that, like, with cards and designs, you know, you want people to be proud of holding the design, you know,
Right.
and you know, they want to carry it as a fashion statement, not just as a useful element, you know.
Exactly.
And that's what I did. So I did it all around the Banksy theme, and I won the competition, luckily. So it was really good. So that card got released in 2008, 2009. There was I think 5 million distributions. It was
Well,
a big deal, you know. And then during that time, so I started watching Miami Ink, and I thought, oh, I'll get a couple of tattoos. My dad was a tattooist, and he'd stopped because you know, he had different factors of me being born and money and things like this.
sorry,
So
Miami Ink is what? I'm not familiar with it. Is it? It's like a TV program, right? Or?
yeah, so it's a TV program. It was huge in 2006, and he said I was watching that, and I thought, oh, you know, I always liked tattoos, seen them on my dad, and started going to get a few myself. And I was sat there, and even with graphic design, I was starting to do work for companies when I was in university. I was starting to do overspill work and do my own thing already. So I knew I kind of wanted to do something for myself, but I'd had a lot of attention through the competition to go to London. And I was sitting there in a tattoo room waiting for my appointment to get a tattoo. And it just dawned on me that I just paid £250 for 4 hours work. I was like, oh,
there's money to be made here.
Money to major, yeah. So I was like, actually, the only reason I actually started graphic design was because I feared that I couldn't make a living through art. And then it kind of hit me because
yeah, like the classic impoverished artist. Yeah.
Exactly. So commercially, I turned into this commercial sort of graphic designer, but at the same time, I'd always had this sort of artistic side to me where I wanted to go down that lane. And then it kind of, with I think what happened with shows like Miami Ink, even though it had a lot of the tattoo community didn't like it, it kind of commercially made them more business people rather than just being, you know, backstreet sort of tattooists. And I think it did a really good thing for it and a bad thing, you know. So I think there's two factors.
Because now tattoos have gone completely mainstream over the last 5 to 10 years, I think.
Yeah, and that's what it was. Like, you look at the timeline. That's what happened. I mean, made it fashionable, and you had like famous rock stars down to sports stars, down to iconic business people who started getting tattoos done just for that show, you know. And I think that was the thing that exploded.
And as a matter of fact, now you have your own tattoo studio, and you've also tattooed many celebrities now, I believe. So
that's right. Yeah. So I wanted to get a conventional apprenticeship, and I just kept asking, kept knocking the doors, and they kept saying no. there was a couple of artists that helped me along the way, and they give us a little thing, but there was no apprenticeship, so it was just me and my dad. My dad had to sort of like teach himself and myself again, because he'd finished for a long period, and all the equipment had changed. Everything had sort of like, as everything does, equipment just improves constantly, yearly, you know.
That's
And
noticeable, is it?
pardon?
It's noticeable over the years that it's
Oh
really.
yes, yeah. You went from, conventionally they'd have to, like, the pattern of tattoos would only open, say, Tuesday onwards, and a lot of it was to do with, it was Mondays would they be making their own equipment.
Oh,
You
really?
know?
Oh,
Yeah, so the
interesting.
pattern of everything has changed, and now, you know, everything, like I own my own tattoo supply company now as well, so that's something that
What's
I've
that called?
noticed. It's called Tatsup Limited. So it's that's another thing that we developed, a brand where you're more commercially aspected, you know, because identifying, you know, problematic issues that are within the community, you know.
Do you have any nice stories to tell? Like, who are some of the celebrities that you were able to give a nice tattoo?
Maybe loads of football players that have become friends. Off the spot, I'm trying to think. There's so many. I did one previously. You become a friend again, and most of them, this is the thing, you spend so much time in the seat together that you sort of, you know, and these people tend to have long sit-ins. You know, when can you say that the last time you spent 8 hours with one person solid? And
yeah, because I mean, you're not yet. I mean, you are a tattoo artist, which is clear from the images that we are presenting throughout this program, and the more like paintings on I don't know what the term is, on people. You know, it's really quite amazing.
That's what it is. You know, we went from being able to just do, maybe they used to be, conventionally they used to be flat sheets, they call them, and you go on the wall and they'd just be like a board, and you just switch the board, and they'd be like, oh, number 24, and it'd be like a bird or something, or it'd be an angel, or, you know, there wasn't much of a differentiation between designs. And then now we literally, and this is where my graphic design comes in. You've seen some of the pictures that I've given you.
Yes.
They're digitally enhanced. So we wanted to, because it's just so much custom made now, we can actually show you what the tattoo will look like before you get it.
Yes. To tell you the truth, when I saw the images you provided, I was quite stunned, because I didn't realize that you could transplant pieces of art onto you know, as a tattoo. I never realized that it had gone to this level, you know.
It has,
expertise. So
and I think it's something I've always wanted to do. I don't accept that that's just it. There's always improvement. The same as though we go in with this ecosystem with what we're talking about today, is that everything just keeps getting better and better, and you have to become better by wanting to be better. You kind of just accept that's it. And that's with the digitalization of tattoos. It's like, well, you know, if you've got not just people who are artistic coming in anymore, just tattoo collectors, you've got director of companies, and I've tattooed, you know, from doctors to solicitors. One of the ones you see in the Floyd Mayweather tattoo that I did. So that's Dave. He's a really good friend of mine. We call him Dave 2001 because he loves the Space Odyssey film, and he's a solicitor, you know, and he's got a really important job. And we met, and so the idea is if these people are coming from different areas, they haven't got the artistic view to see how the tattoo would look. So the best way to show them is to take a picture of their arm with no ink on, and then you can digitally put the design on their skin for them to see. And then that allows them then to say, oh yeah, you know, they can make the changes, or they can accept that sort of look, and you've got to do your best job possible to get it on that skin then, you know.
Yeah.
Which is the tough
amazing. We're continuously showing images as we're talking. So have you ever tattooed anybody who then came back to your shop and said that he or she regretted getting a tattoo? Or
you'll always get something, you know, because some things are bigger than they may appear, or sometimes it's down to it's like a lot of perception of people. They react to other people's opinions, don't they? So they might have been happy with it, or someone might have said, or mom, dad, nan, or, you know, have said, you know, they're not happy or whatever. And then I think that's their opinion. And some people, you know, they don't think for themselves, and that's affected their opinion on their tattoo later date, you know?
Correct. You'd found your calling in becoming a tattoo artist. You set up a successful business. How's that gone for you? Did you just stay into tattooing, or did you also venture into different type of businesses?
Yeah, so the tattooing's gone really well. I never dreamt of achieving what I have already, even though I got loads more that I want to achieve. And I think there's something I've always prided myself on, not being happy just where I'm at. Or like I said, I always want to improve. I can improve a lot, but I do spread myself thin, as in, I like to do different things. I'm into my graphic design. I'd like to do entrepreneurial ideas, and so there's plenty more I can do. The business is amazing. We've got such a good, it's a family business first and foremost. And like I said, I've done, a few different businesses with family and friends. And it's something I pride myself on, being able to wake up every day doing something I really enjoy, and the customers are amazing people as well. And like I said, we've been open nearly 12 years now, and we carry the same customers from day one all the way through. So we're really lucky, So from that, then I've opened, we've got a second business which does like vape products. That's at the bottom of our store. So I've opened that with my best friend.
And I presume you made the design for it yourself?
That's right, yeah. So that's where obviously my graphic designs come in really handy, because everything that I brand and I rebrand, I just do myself. And I'm always thinking, and the only problem is with that, because I can do it, I tend to do it too much. So I'm never happy with something. Like I said, I'm never happy with anything.
Actually, I forgot to mention that very kindly. You also created the very logo of this podcast.
That's
so
correct.
People go onto YouTube, and the logo is actually made by you. So that's another reason to be very proud of the program.
Yeah, it's just when you see, that's a sort of like a bad habit of mine, as well as a good habit for everybody else, is that if I see something, I'm like, oh, that could be better, and then
you tune into it straight away.
Yeah. And then that's where my bad habit for myself, because I've rebranded my company about 10 times, and that's where we developed the vape brand and stuff, is because we seen a gap in the market. I thought that the branding and most of the vape companies were quite poor.
Right.
We wanted something a bit slick and elegant,
Yeah. So, I mean, if you stand out, then you're going to sell more stuff. It's easy. So.
Yeah, and I just feel like, it's a bit different, because we've done it during lockdown since this pandemic happened last year. I mean, people haven't been able to go out and socialize, but the branding of the product, for the vape products, for example, are for elegant, slick ideas for when people go out and when they socialize it, but we haven't got to do that. So it's just, we won't see this full fact of that, because, with the other products, they're very colorful and they got quite childlike. So with this design, it's sleek, slick, people can carry when they go out, and it's disclosed,
You mentioned that from a very young age, you were always interested in art, but also in sports at the same time. So did you ever consider pursuing like a professional career in sports of any level?
No, I wasn't good enough. No, I've always really enjoyed it, but something I probably wasn't quite the standard of going professional by any means. But it's something I still do now. I sort of got back to it when I sort of late 20s. I started coaching. So we basically went to a 6-a-side team. So we wanted to just do a bit of fitness as a dad's team. And we got back, and we just started really enjoying it. So we got a good bunch of boys, and we started a 11-a-side team, and it was called Seagulls. And lucky enough, because of the shop and because of the people that I tattoo, all these people are either professional footballers, ex-professional footballers, or in between. There's a lot of good footballers. So we sort of pulled everyone in from there, and they all had tattoos. So we started this team, and we went undefeated in the whole year. So up until the last 2 games, and then in the cup finals. So we did really well, and then we've all sort of stayed close friends since, and we've had a lot of success in other clubs that I've been to. And and I still want to keep some sort of part, and I've still got a club that I coach now, because of the pandemic, it's sort of ruined things, But
So had it not been for art or tattooing, then you might have grown up to become a professional football manager, maybe.
Maybe. I'm not quite good enough, but yeah, maybe possibly. I really enjoy it. I like the sort of the managerial side, keeping people involved and trying to get, there's plenty of talent out there and there's good footballers, but it's the mindset, it's trying to keep their mindset occupied, and everyone's so different, and there's a lot of things where within a football club that can go wrong, that does go wrong, and this is where things like I always mention about the governance that Charles has been speaking about lately, is that
interesting
how you can bring it into sports. So like the system of, there's a lot of funding that goes, especially semi-professional or amateur sports. There's a lot of funding that goes into it, and how do you decide the way you spend it?
Right.
And that's where a lot of arguments started, is as the saying goes, too many chefs ruin the cook, like, ruin the whatever.
Yeah, the brew or something, the pot.
With the too many heads are involved, and then they tend to argue, and sort of decide on what they want to do. And there's like sort of with the governance or on a voting situations where people, not only the players who are involved, because they're the ones actually winning the games and they're the ones taking part, but the coaches and the managerial side, and maybe even the chairman and stuff, can decide where they want the club to go, in what direction, where they spend the money, and then down to systems to how if we go down as far as grassroots and lower sports, is that people pay to play. So how do they pay? How do they pay their membership? Where does it go? And then this is where this sort of things can come into play with Cardano and ADA. And I think that's where we can tie it in and go in, even down to like ICOs with the players. That's why I can see the future of there's a thing called players index, the minute that people pay shares on players. So when you go to semi-pro and professionals, we can look at ICOs and these NFTs with players, and even down to the memorabilia and down to the signature and the blockchain. I think there's so much you can do with it.
Possibilities are endless once you get started. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Let's get on the unavoidable subject for a second. Obviously COVID. So how has the coronavirus affected your business, your tattooing business?
So we are closed at the moment. There's nothing I can do really, apart from just trying to reassure people everything's going to be fine. As in business, we are fine as a business. The only problem is we just got the unfortunate part. We got to rebook everyone for the last. It's been, I think it's just before Christmas now, but we are really booked up. So there's a lot of people that are going to have to be rebooked, and that we managed to catch up for the last one before lockdown, but there's still people who might have missed out again. So
the next one comes along.
Yeah, I know.
But I guess maybe now you've sort of taken a break from tattooing, and at least you can keep yourself busy with graphic designing, again, because I imagine you can do that from home, right?
That's right. Yeah. So that's what I've been doing, and obviously that with the crypto and the Cardano, I've been trying to delve my sort of ideas into how project possibilities of what I can bring to that as well.
Let's get on to that. How did you find out about Cardano?
So my brother-in-law he's been heavily invested since day one, and he's been following Cardano, and he did a few other projects which he said didn't work out great, and then he sort of found Cardano, did a lot of research into Charles himself, and he's followed all that all the way through. And about just before the pandemic hit, he sort of told me about it, and we were speaking, and I thought it was just a form of gambling. I didn't realize to what the crypto space was.
Yeah, like all of us.
Yeah, definitely. So we started talking, and he started telling me more, and he said that he'd been initially looking at the stakepool, and he did the original test net, and he went all the way through that, and he'd originally done mining for Bitcoin, right. And so he's quite tech savvy as well. So
this is your brother-in-law, right?
Yeah, so he got the UK ADA stakepool, and
UK ADA.
Yeah, and so he told me about it, and he said about the projects, and he just sent me a few links, and he just said, look, have a good read, and and to see what he thought. So at first, like, I started getting into it, so I invested a little bit into it, and because it was low, it went in a bit blind, and then sort of got obsessed with watching the podcasts, and sort of all the information. And then
Mm.
I think the point where I'd invested more all the way through, obviously we had the coronavirus and the pandemic. I started watching more and more of the podcasts and started understanding of what it was, not just what it is. There's a bigger underlying issue with Cardano, what they're doing for the ecosystem. And at first I just wanted to make money, and then afterwards, and I realized there's a bigger thing going on here. And obviously everyone wants to make money. But the bigger picture is that how we can affect change using it, and for the future. And I think it was the big thing for me was watching obviously when I use yourself, watching your podcast, speaking of Charles as well. But I think the whiteboard ones and the governance one, where I really thought, actually, this is something we need now. You look at the politics in America that's going on.
Something meaningful,
Yeah, and definitely. And I think there's something that's needed globally. Other third world countries probably needed that for, decades. But like even the biggest country in the world needs it now. At the moment.
Absolutely. So I understand the perspective. Like you said, at the same time, you've always made you're a business guy, so you always have the point of view that you also look at things in order to make money. So are there any? I mean, you're a serial entrepreneur, no? As a matter of fact, you have like several businesses. So there's also this perspective. Are there any like new projects that you envision for yourself that sort of involve Cardano?
Yeah, so I've actually sent some emails and some important conversations where myself and David from UK ADA pool, we've sort of like got some plans that we're gonna, not for this fund, it's gonna be for the next one. So we're gonna go for that. And we just, especially from my point of view, being a designer, I'm visually, so he's more technical, I'm more visual. So
great combination.
Yeah, it's a good combination. So we got a couple other people who are going to join us, and very, very intelligent people, especially in the sort of technical aspect of computing and coding and so on. So that is, especially for myself, I can see points that I found difficult getting into the sort of project, understanding what it was, because
what it's all about.
Yeah, like you said yourself, if you're not technical, how do you know how to approach this? Because there's a lot of information to delve into, isn't it? And so I've seen a few problems that from, especially the transition between using maybe a PC or a Mac to a mobile phone to an iPad. It's like a lot of the time we have a phone in our hand, don't we? All the time. And we sort of like, that's the quickest, easiest way to sort of go through these things. But then you're looking at, from delegating to going into your stake pools, to your wallets, to your exchanges. So that's sort of, with the dApps sort of development, that's something that would interest me. Not that I know how to create it, but I can visually and make the framework for it. So it's something that we've got in our heads. We've sent a few things off to show people, and we've had good feedback. So they just said, sort of like go for the funding. So we can have a little go and see if it can be used. Another thing as well, where I said I did the credit cards from when I won the competition, is that with the new sort of the project that's coming out with Cardano and ADA, and they released this week, didn't they? They're saying that the stable coin, and hopefully, that's going to go elsewhere with the cards possibles. When I first got into this, to my brother-in-law, it was the MCO card. The MCO card from crypto.com. So we used that, and I remember having the metal card, and I was really proud of the card. I was like, really good card. So that's hopefully something that's going to come in development for us, and I've made some designs for that already, just because. So I'm gonna send some of them off just to show some ideas, and and what I like about with Cardano, especially with the Hoolan thing, is that with a project, more that we do as individuals to help it, we're going to have our own satisfaction because we're actually invested in it ourselves, both financially and emotionally. So if it's not all about charging for this, charging for that, creating, asking for income. It's about we'll get the reward by the project being bigger. So I think that's where I'm at, especially with my design. If I can help anyone, I will, because I feel that that's going to help the whole ecosystem of Cardano. And I think, and that's what I like about Charles when he speaks about some of the white papers and how it's there for everyone else to use, because he's the same. That's where he's coming from, isn't he? the
That's
more
right.
people that use it, bigger it's going to get.
Yeah. It's pretty much, it's like a platform where you can also sort of unleash your own creativity and emotions,
Exactly.
Because something new,
Exactly.
and by doing so, you help the ecosystem grow and well,
Yeah.
conquer the world, hopefully. So,
It's the same as like when you look at artwork, for example, it's like,
mm,
especially myself as an artist, and another artist should be the same, is that when you see these old paintings, for example, and people, majority of people, normal people, can't afford to buy the original, so they buy a print. So, the values of these original paintings may be, tens of thousands and millions of pounds. Now, no one can have ownership of that. But if we look at creating like these NFT projects or the ICOs on the actual artwork, and people actually feel that they are part of the ownership of the original painting,
yes,
so that not only can they have a print, but they can have
by tokenizing the artwork.
exactly, if they tokenize the artwork, they feel like they're a part of the project. This is what we are doing. So this can just get bigger and bigger in other formats. So as artists, and then the increase of the price of their own work. So if they display their own work, they produce it, and it's down to the community then to people who feel want to be a part of that artwork. So if it gets exhibited in big hotels like yourselves, or put on different displays, or
Exactly.
put in different areas, people pay, and then they get the rewards then for creating the masterpiece. And I think that artists need to be more business savvy and more aware of how far this can go.
Yep. Well, this seems like a perfect way of doing it.
Yeah.
Jon, this is already my last question. Is there anything else that you would like to add, or do you have any nice funny stories to tell us, or any anecdotes, or just a last statement, or anything you would like to add to the conversation?
Yeah, let me just think. I just like another thing I was thinking about that I didn't say is that about like the decentralization of these platforms, like people being getting deplatformed over the last, businesses, and this ecosystem has been on. Like something happened today with that GME stock, the shares that they've deplatformed a lot of people with this Robinhood and stuff, things like this, and the Twitter deplatform. So I think what people need to start thinking about is we're socially decentralization, not just with the money, where people need to voice their opinions, or like that need to be governed again, using that can be used the governance program. But I think we are at a turning point where everything isn't just what it is. People need to start thinking and maybe approaching places like Cardano, like these Plutus and Marlon and these different projects, and trying to be better aware of which way we're going. I think that could be whether you're an artist or whether you're a business tycoon, or especially with podcasts and people voicing their opinions and sort of having a platform to voice that from. And I think that's important going forward. And I definitely think this ecosystem is a place to do that.
Yep. It's exciting times are ahead of us, and the winds of change have only just started to gather force. So, Jon, was a great pleasure to have you on the show. It was very educational. I learned a lot, and also it was great to see all of your artwork. And we hope to hear from you very soon, and also find out about your projects and what it is that you're going to do with for Cardano. So,
brilliant. Thank you for having me. It's been really good, and I can't wait to see more.